The Amped EV podcast is sponsored by Autel Energy. Visit autelenergy.com for more information.
Hello and welcome to the Amped EV podcast. My name is David Sickles. I am the editor for The Buzz.
And I am Jason Morgan, content director for Fleet Equipment. I'm amped.
I am also amped.
Wait, why are you amped?
Because I am feeling a shift in the EV wins here.
Oh, tell me about it.
Oh, well, I'm talking about the Shyft Group.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I love
the Shyft Group. We're talking with Daryl Adams, Shyft CEO today, Shyft
awesome.
Group CEO today, and he wants to talk to us about two things. First off, he's got Class 3 through 5 Blue Arc chassis and bodies that they are designing from the ground up. He has a lot of really interesting ways that they're planning to distribute and use those. Okay. They also have the Blue Arc Power Cube, which is kind of a mobile, non-permanent charging station that people can use. He described it to me kind of as a bridge, if you will. Okay. So a fleet could install this and use this while they're still trying to get their permanent infrastructure set up. So.
I see. Power Cube. I like that name. Let's
Absolutely.
learn more.
Let's do that. Daryl, thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate your time here, and I want to just get right into it, get started talking about your Class 3 through 5 Blue Arc chassis and bodies that you are building and designing really from the ground up. So, what were your primary goals in designing these vehicles? And then, what would you say makes these vehicles different from other all-electric offerings out there?
Sure. Yeah, David, it's, when we looked at this, in the typical space that we're in the delivery vehicles, we would be agnostic to the ICE chassis, whether it was supplier A or supplier B. Our OEMs would drop or ship them to us. We'd build on them, and the vehicle would move on. But we wanted to be in the forefront of EV. We were excited about it. When we actually looked out to see if there were any chassis, we didn't find any. We couldn't find any. We looked hard. We actually have a joke internally where we gave my business development person $1 million check to go find a chassis. And we would offer $1 million check for a chassis, and they would ask us for $8 million more to develop the chassis for us. So when we looked at that, and then we sat back and said, as a company, the Shyft Group, we've been building motorhome chassis for almost 50 years. The company was founded on building fire truck chassis, and these are all custom. And we've been building bodies at the Telemaster side for 50 years. So when we couldn't find it, I got the group together, right? I mean, we have great engineers here at the Shyft Group, and got the business minds together. And we put a proposal and took it to our board in early of 21. And we also had some influence from our customers. Two of our customers came to us and said, we really need you to get involved. And we try to hold our ground and say we want to stay agnostic. That's what we're good at, and we understand that. And they said, well, but you do make fire truck chassis and you do make motorhome chassis. So they asked us to get involved because they didn't feel they were getting what they needed. So we know what our customers need. We know what the step height should be. We know what the door width should be. We know all the factors that go in. And what's important, right, that people don't think about is they want the vehicle to perform the same and operate the same. So when it comes into their distribution center, if you have a different deck height or different step bumper height, it doesn't fit their infrastructure. So the vehicle, we went under the mindset that we can't ask all of our customers to change their infrastructure to match our vehicle. Our vehicle should be the same to match their infrastructure. So that was where we started on a base. And then we wanted to make sure the batteries were protected. So that's why we started with a brand new chassis from the ground up. Our batteries and all the high voltage cables and brake lines and everything run between our two frame rails. Okay, and we can accommodate all three of our battery sizes within that same window. So we took, we saw a lot, we learned a lot, we went to a lot of shows and saw a lot of PowerPoint presentations. So when we developed ours, we said, look, this is important. We want to, vehicles, they do get in crashes, they do get banged up, they're on the road that often, they're going to have some problems. So we wanted to make sure that we protected the batteries, and that was the key driver behind all brand new ground up. And now what that allowed us to do also was break the paradigm from our typical suppliers. So we were able to work with new suppliers like Dana, right, who does our eAxle. We worked with Hendrickson, who great partners, but we wanted something unique for this. So we actually have a brand new suspension. It's a single leaf spring from Hendrickson on the rear, which gives you less weight. I mean, it's all about taking weight out of the product. And we actually have taken 2,000 pounds out, by the way, from our traditional ICE vehicle to the EV vehicle. And that's going to help with the range. So then we have Modyne's helping us with the cooling systems. Proterra, right, is a U.S. manufactured or assembled battery pack builder. So we wanted to make sure that we align, and we have Akebono brakes, we have Bosch. I mean, these are all proven automotive and higher vehicle class suppliers that are world class, and that was important to us. So we put all that together and took it to our board in June of 2021. We announced it at our analyst day, and by the end of the year, we actually had a operating chassis with the software. So we own the software. The Shyft Group owns the software. We thought that should be the proprietary product, right, or technology that we have, so that if we have a customer that says, which they do, they don't want, these EVs have a lot of torque, but they want the vehicles to start up very similar to an ICE vehicle. So we can regulate through the computer system 0 to 40 or 0 to 30 or 0 to 60, right? Or maybe from 30 to 60, we can also have that torque curve change, so we can adopt whether they get on a highway or if they're in a neighborhood subdivision. They don't want to be speeding through the subdivision because it's their brand. So that's, to me, the exciting part of owning the software, is we can work with them instead of going to somebody all the time and trying to get a canned system.
Right. And even that, I mean, the regen power and how much regen braking power you have, so you can enable some of that more comfortable one pedal driving instead of getting kind of that jerky kind of golf cart operation as well.
And I think it's important to understand that we didn't feel a canned piece of software is going to work for every application, right, Jason, to your point, where maybe you're in the mountains, or maybe you're on a flat surface, or maybe you have a lot of payload, or and even we can actually tune it to the drivers. If the drivers don't like it, we can also tune it to that, because we'll be remote monitoring all these products as well.
Right. So a lot to unpack there. One thing I do want to note, though, because this space is picking up a lot, we're seeing a lot of EV announcements, but I want to make sure I get this right, because you had a relatively staggering announcement here earlier of a pre-order of 2,000 all-electric delivery vans from the Randy Marion Dealer Group in the Carolinas. That is, I mean, you gotta love seeing that number too, bringing out a product and seeing that kind of support. But then, as you know, as these roll out, how do you go about working with them to make sure they understand everything that comes along with the electric vehicle sale, then support their customers, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, and actually, a very good question, because, right, this is going to be new to everybody. I'm sure they're working with some of their Class 2 OEM suppliers of vehicles, right, GM or Ford or whoever they're getting it from. So they have some knowledge of the EV space, but in our system, we also, back to the first question, just a little catch up, we also developed ours to be an 800-volt system.
Oh, wow, okay.
So that allows us to charge faster, right, and take weight out of the cables, the high voltage cables. The higher voltage you have, the smaller the cable can be. So we're talking to Randy and his team, Randy Marion, the Auto Group, about how to maintain the vehicles. They are super excited. They've purchased other startup EV products. And they were super excited, and they wanted to make sure they got in up front. And they have a lot of customers asking. So they do a lot of work with the FedEx ground fleet customers, which are, private companies or entrepreneurs. He has great relationships with them all over the country. So it's not just in the Carolinas. He sells vehicles all over the country. And he sees them, right? We believe we're going to launch this in the summer of next year, June, July sometime. We're going to have the soft launch. We're going to start a slow ramp because this is also new to our operators, right? You have high voltage, these batteries, they're very powerful. So we want to make sure that we crawl, walk, run through the ramp up. So we think we'll get maybe 500 next year in 2023, so the second half of 23. And then we're looking to get 1,000 to 1,500 in 2024 and continue to ramp it up as the demand comes. Now, if the demand comes faster, so this 2,000 order that you referenced, Jason, is over a number of years.
Right.
But he just wanted to get in front of it so he can get the first ones. And we do have a dealer agreement with him. Now, we understand also that these vehicles are going to be sold around the country. And we also understand other dealers that we're working with right now to sign up will have vehicles around the country. So we are actually working with a couple right now. We're in talks with two service organizations that have fleets that will be out on the road, right? This is a work truck, and these trucks need to operate. They can't be sitting on the side of the road. So if there's an issue, we want to make sure that we can get quick response to the vehicle, help the operator, right? Is it something simple? Do we have to take it back? So we are working to establish our service network too, which is going to be, to us, it'll be very important as the vehicles get out into our customers' hands.
Right, for sure.
Wow, very nice, very nice. I want to, excuse the pun here, but I want to shift over to another one of your products here, the Blue Arc Power Cube. It doesn't need to be connected to the grid, provides 3 megawatts of onboard power with level 2 and fast charging abilities. So, what kinds of customers are asking you for this kind of solution? How long does it take to deploy, and what does it take on your end to deploy this kind of charging unit?
Yeah. Again, David, when we looked at what was on the market, right, and talking with our customers. So our customers are saying, look, I'd love to buy your vehicle, but I lease my facility, especially if it's a contractor, and I don't want to pay to get a bunch of new power into my facility. And so we heard this a few times as the sales team and myself were out talking to the customers. So the engineers, we went back and said, look, here's a problem. And they said, we got this, not a problem. So it's about the size, just to put it in perspective, of a shipping container, overseas shipping container. So it's about that size, from 150 kilowatt hours up to 3 megawatts on it. So we can scale it however they need it, depending on how many vehicles. But we looked at this as being a bridge, right? We saw a lot of people had the ones that you could put on a trailer with wheels and haul it around. That might get you a vehicle or two, right? So we're thinking that might be with our service network that's out on the road in case there's a battery that's low. But the main thing with the Power Cube is it will be dropped at a building. So we say it's remote controlled. It does have, the first one we did has all the bells and whistles. It's got hydraulic system that raises it up. It's got hydrostatic transmission or wheels that'll move it around so you can get it close to a building. And then we have solar panels on top that fold open, so they close for transport. And this will actually, you can load it onto a flatbed trailer. And that's how we've actually moved it around. So just to prove out the concept, we took it to Washington, D.C. on a flatbed. We dropped it in the area they allowed us to show the vehicle and the Power Cube, and pulled the truck out from underneath it. And it was up and charging the vehicle. It was really hot day, so we had fans going for us. We let people charge their phones. So it is, once it's charged, it can be deployed anywhere. So it's really interesting as the use cases started to, especially when we were in DC, just think about national disasters like Hurricane Ian. If FEMA had some of these, they could drop them in and people could charge their vehicles. And maybe, I mean, if you come home from work or a long trip, you charge go to charge your vehicle and the grid goes down for some reason, whether it's a storm, you can't leave if you have to. So then we started thinking about national parks or state parks where they don't have a lot of power going up to that region. So we could drop this. But the real benefit that we're seeing is the buffer that it will create. So it can be charged, hooked up into a building. It'll be trickle charged, if you will. It's going to be a large trickle, but it'll be consistent charging off the grid so that when a bunch of fleet vehicles come back into the depot and they all want to plug in approximately at the same time, you're going to see spikes on the grid. So the spike will be off of this battery that we have in there, and the grid will be consistent at the same level over 24 hours. So you can actually predict your power usage, which seems to be a real intriguing to some of the customers that we've talked to.
Yeah, for sure. And what's interesting, I thought the size was interesting, right? The size of about a shipping container. Because one of the things that I've heard in talking more about this with OEMs and suppliers and even fleets is that even smaller mobile ones, like I was with a larger fleet that was in the larger segment, this class 7, 8 segment, and they had one electric truck and they were charging it with a mobile charger unit just because, I mean, like you'd mentioned, the bridge, right? They were working on the infrastructure piece. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. They wanted to get in earlier, so they had this mobile charger. This larger power cube container size idea is really, really intriguing. Going back to your software comment earlier then, is this power, can I serve any vehicle with this? I mean, you mentioned people are charging cell phones and stuff. I mean, can I plug any vehicle? Is this a Shyft Group vehicle only? How does that work?
No, it can, obviously, if it's out in the public use, right, we are working with charging companies that know how to use the credit cards and charge people for the power. So you can charge any vehicle with it. It's not proprietary, but you will need to swipe a credit card to get the power turned on if it's in a public use. But we're thinking more of our fleet customers. So if we sell it to national disasters, I don't think we should charge people if they need the power. But if you're driving up to a national park or wherever it may be deployed, and you just want to charge your vehicle because you need to do it on your trip, right? Whether you get the power off of the Blue Arc Power Cube or off of some standalone charger, you're going to have to pay either way. So it has the flexibility to be obviously free, which we're doing right now, just to get some cycles on the battery. We have it tied into our building in Plymouth that I mentioned to you guys, where Innovation Center is, and we're letting anybody that in the area that wants to park and charge the vehicle, we're letting them charge it. We want to get cycles on it. We want to, test the charger, let the battery drain down and charge it back up, just put it through its paces. You have to do the same thing with a vehicle, but this one is just on the charging cycles.
Very cool.
Sure. So obviously, class 2, class 3, we're talking delivery vans, box trucks, that kind of thing. That's perfect for last mile delivery. I think a lot of people definitely agree with that. Can you think of other applications that might benefit by using this size of electric vehicle?
Yeah, actually, and that's part of the Randy Marion group. When we met with them, obviously a few times working up to that order, or the pre-order, I should say. And let me just back up and clarify that. The reason we call it a pre-order is in order for us to sell a vehicle, we need a certificate of certification from the EPA, right? And in this case, CARB as well, in the class 3 space. So we have received the EPA approval, and the vehicle is actually being tested right now by CARB. So we expect to receive that in mid-November. And then that order will move from a pre-order to a live order with the Randy Marion group. But as we were talking to them about the size of the order, they said, look, at you guys, there's a lot of other vehicles in this space that you're not talking to. So they brought up, for example, a HVAC company in New York has a truck out every day just changing filters in the city of New York in HVAC systems. So filters aren't that heavy. And can you imagine going through a building? The vehicle probably just drives to the building and parks all day, and they move up and down the elevator and change out the HVAC filters, and then they go back and come back to the next building the next day. So he's saying there's so many plumbers in HVAC and electricians in the big cities that don't move, that would really be interested in this type of a vehicle. So he actually, that Reimagining group actually opened our eyes a little bit to some more use cases that we typically don't think of, because, and then we actually went to our other division, Specialty Vehicles, and they do the service bodies, which are the white boxes on the back with the doors on the side, right? Like a cable TV company, or a plumber or electrician. And we sell a lot of those to municipalities. So if we can fit that on the back of this chassis that we have, and have a product available for the municipalities as well. So once we started, similar to the Power Cube, maybe we should have got out of our wheelhouse a long time ago with the typical delivery vehicle, but this new one looks a lot better. It's designed a little bit softer. It looks more like an automotive style vehicle. So everyone's excited about the extra use cases that we typically don't have, which is going to be nice as we continue to grow the company like we have over the last 5-10 years.
Absolutely. Daryl, this has been really great, really eye-opening. Sounds like you have a lot of really smart people working with you, and you're really getting into a lot of interesting areas. So I really look forward to seeing how this kind of evolves over the next kind of couple of years or so. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. David, Jason, nice meeting you guys.
You too. Okay.
All right, I was right to be amped. That was cool.
I think you were as well, and so was I.
So I got 3 things for you, if
Okay.
I can. So let me put you in the Wayback Time Machine. I looked this up because Shyft Group I've talked with before. I did something with them in early 2021 when they were building out their last mile offering there and upfitting those types of vehicles. And it's funny, I reviewed the interview today, and EV was kind of the last question we went in there, and the takeaway was it's coming and it's going to be here, and stay tuned. Well, now a little over a year and a half later, wow, they've really grown. Very cool.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're right.
One of the biggest things that, because like he mentioned, these type of applications are just primed for EV. We just haven't seen the growth as fast as in some of maybe the class 7 and 8 segment, which you think would grow a little faster. But the things that he called out, work truck spec and expectations.
Yes.
I think it's taking a long time, or a longer-ish time, to work out those details. He was talking about the frame rail needs, being able to upfit the vehicles. These are specialized vehicles that go into specialized applications, right?
Yeah,
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of, here's a vehicle and here's your battery options. You really got to make it so they're upfittable and they work for those type of applications. So really see all that work coming together to bring it to the market now.
Yep, that's important. And he was talking about plumbers and HVAC and, different municipalities that might be able to take advantage of this kind of thing. And I think that would obviously be a very smart use for this type of vehicle as well.
Right.
I mean, like you said, what's a filter weigh? If you just have a van full of filters behind you, I think you're going to be okay,
right.
In most cases. Another one of my takeaways, they partnered with a lot of very well-known companies in the aftermarket space to establish this as really like, hey, this is a major player. We've got something that we're really excited about, and something that should be. What are you giving me that look for?
You stole that was my third one.
Oh,
I thought the same thing. Yes.
I mean, I think it's very smart to have that
smart.
long list of really established players behind this project. To say like, hey, we're not messing around here. We've got people who and already trust, and having that behind them, I think, was a really smart move.
Yeah, I like your mind reading abilities here because Hendrickson, Dana. I mean, there is a lot new in the market, right?
Yeah,
even the Blue Arc
brand
is new, but
yes.
We've seen a trend now of really leaning on those people and companies that have been in the commercial vehicle space that understand the needs of those those businesses and those end users, and yeah, leveraging that decades upon decades upon decades of knowledge. Really, really smart move.
Absolutely. And then my very last point, the shipping container sized charging station.
Yeah.
I love his ideas where, you can give this to a fleet as a bridge while you're still working on that infrastructure like we talked about a million times. It takes way longer than you think it's going to take to actually get this up and running, this kind of infrastructure for electric vehicles.
Right.
And then also, the kind of emergency kind of situations with, FEMA or at a national park site or something like that could be really smart. I have not seen one of these at that scale before, so I think that's going to hit a need somewhere in the market.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it from a fleet perspective too. Maybe investing in one of those gets you that foot in the door. Maybe you take on 2 or 3 electric vehicles and start getting your feet wet with it, start understanding the application before going down the road of full charging infrastructure, right?
Yep.
Scaling up from a power cube investment then to something that's going to meet the needs of if you want to go to 10, 20, 30, 40 electric vehicles, right?
Yep.
It's a little, I could see how that would be a little bit more approachable than, okay, well, let me dig everything up now and put in this now, and then trying to figure out what I'll need 5 years from now. Power, I like that bridge concept. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yep. Same.
Very good.
Well, this was a lot of fun.
Thanks for setting it up.
Jason. Of course. And we'll see you next time.